So as I said in my last video of the 29 Pedals Euna, I had my big pedal board kind of in the cupboard for a few months, decided to get it out and have a rearrange. The 29 Pedals Euna is now fully integrated into the rig. I'm really enjoying it. Like, that's an incredible pedal. But there's a few other changes here as well that I like to share with you guys. You guys really get to see what I'm using on a day-to-day basis, I guess, and how I use the pedals that you often see on the channel. So this is the big board. The board itself is an Alder & Ash pedal board. I think it's a Taylor Pro. Most of the cables are pedal patch UK cables, so kind of make your own solderless kits with the odd pancake cable thrown in, I think from Loaded for Bear. Underneath the board, RYRA Klone, which is my favourite clone pedal, clone type pedal. GFI Rossie, which is my envelope filter. Origin Effects Cali 76 compressor, and the Mythos Argo. I'm powering the whole board, quite amazingly actually, through the One Spot CS12 Pro, I think that's what it is, which is also powering a little Chox 4, which is just here to give me a few extra outlets. This is my favourite iteration of this pedal board, absolutely. It is the most complete, it's the most thought through, and it's also the most me. I feel like with other iterations of this board, I've been trying to tick boxes that I've not necessarily needed to tick as a guitar player. This board is all me, and it's all about tones that I want to get and how I like to stack pedals. I'm going to play my Heritage H150 because I'm struggling to play anything else at the moment. I do have a couple of always on pedals at the moment, that one of them being the Euna from 29 Pedals. The other pedal is the Strymon Flint. It's giving me a little bit of spring reverb. I generally prefer that spring over the reverb that's in my amp. Talking of the amp, Victory V40 going into the Boss Wazza tube amp expander. This is the clean sound with the Euna and the Flint on. That's the best clean sound I've ever had, and it's all thanks to the Euna. It just brings so much life to the guitar. It's the first time I've had a usable clean sound with no pedals on. It's unbelievable. The another great thing about the Euna is that it has like an effects loop that you can put an old school fuzz in, which is exactly what I've done. We have the NRG Effects Mauler in the effects loop of the Euna. So when I turn the Euna off, it engages the Mauler. The Mauler is just an incredible fuzz face, insane pedal. It covers ground that I like, but also covers ground that some of my other fuzzy pedals aren't covering. And it can also get a little bit insane and feedbacky. Let's get some tones. I mean, I'm happy. I'm a happy boy with that fuzz sound. Yeah, I think after I filmed the demo of that Mauler, I spent some more time with it and really dialed in how I like it, and I'm really happy with that. So that is sort of in conjunction with the 29 Pedals Euna guitar, 29 Pedals Euna with the Mauler and the effects loop. From the Euna, we're going into the Quartermaster QMX-6. And this is, as I said earlier, how I have most of my other fuzz pedals and my drive pedals sort of in here. So in loop 1 is the Mythos Argo. octave fuzz type thing. I love the Argo. It's just instant, intense to see when you're soloing, especially. That's kind of how I use it. But I've also learnt how to use it with a few other pedals, which we'll get into another video. I think I've had it on a board for the longest out of any of these pedals. Next up in loop 2 is the NRG Effects Cali 76. I'm using this less now I've got the Euna on the board, but I still found it useful, especially with a Strat, to have a bit of compression for some funkier tones. Yep, just levels things out for me. It's more of a feel thing than a sound thing. Nobody in the audience is going to hear that, but I like to have it. Next up in loop 3 is actually the GFI Rossie, my envelope filter. Envelope filter has become quite a big part of the way I like to play, especially when it comes to funky stuff, which is becoming more and more part of how I play guitar, I suppose, and the GFI is just great. Sometimes I'm lost without a bit of an envelope filter. Especially, I love stacking that with some fuzz and a bit of delay. In loop 4, we have the Reeves Electro Leo. Again, another pedal that I spent more time with after I filmed the demo and really found my sound. It is an incredible pedal. It's going for a tweedy amp type sound, which it is getting, it's achieving, but what I also love is it's got a boost function that turns it into this massive, gnarly, flabby fuzz, which is just great. But it's just a great drive pedal on its own as well, which is how I have it set up here. It's just a drive sound, an old school drive sound that's got a ton of attitude and character. But then when I hit the boost, this is just incredible. Yeah, I mean, the playing's off, but it's a great sound. Great sound. That might be my favourite kind of standalone tone in the whole board. Next up is the RYRA Klone in loop 5. I have this set as sort of a loud drive sound. In the past, I've had this set as just a clean boost, but I've found that really you're not getting the most magic out of that sort of clone type circuit unless you have the gain up. This is something I will probably make a video about soon. But having that gain, even at like 9 o'clock, you really started to introduce some of the magic of that circuit. More mids, more fun, more good of everything. So this is how I have it set up. So it's a lot louder as well. I sort of use that for more bluesier solos, I guess, cleaner solos. It's pushing the amp as well. We're getting more mids and gain from the pedal. It's just juicy all around. Finally, in loop 6 for drives, we have the Analogman King of Tone. I have this after the clone because I like to stack the clone into that. So yeah, the King of Tone. It's become a bit of a staple, almost by accident. I wasn't keen on it at first, but again, I've spent more time with it, found my tone, and I really, really like this King of Tone. I think it's a great pedal. I'm going to get questions on why I'm using this over a Protein or the Gladio because I have the other two as well. It's down to a couple of things. Firstly, the King of Tone takes 18 volts and I only had one 18 volt output left on my power supply, so that kind of rules out the other two straight away. Also, if I'm honest, I do prefer the way the King of Tone plays with other pedals than the Protein and the Gladio. I also think the Protein and the Gladio are slightly more amp specific compared to the King of Tone. In my experience, the King of Tone works great into any amp. The Protein and the Gladio especially, are a bit more picky with what they like to see. That's my experience. Your experience might be different. This is the red side of the King of Tone, which I think I ordered as the high gain, but this is how I have this set up most of the time. Just a great simple drive sound with a ton of attitude, with a load of string definition, which I'm finding is becoming more and more important to me when I'm looking for drive sounds, is just a ton of clarity and string definition, which this has oodles of. The other side, the yellow side, I sort of have as another boost sort of side. So things get louder when I use that. It sort of depends how I'm using the rest of the board at that point, because typically I would use the clone as a clean boost, but if I've got the King of Tone on after that, then I'm not really getting much more volume, so I use the yellow side of the King of Tone to get that volume boost. Okay, so moving on, where do I go from here? Out of the QMX-6, we're going into the Pulse Doppler, which is probably my favourite modulation pedal at the moment because it's just wild. I don't understand what's going on here, but I've got it at a place where I really like it, and I get two great modulation sounds that I love. We have a phaser and then almost like a vibrato univibey sort of sound, both of which I absolutely love. So the phaser side is like this. Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's psychedelic, it's warm, it's pulsing. It can be quite delicate when you play nicely, but also if you stack some fuzz and some gain in front of it, it can be all out mayhem. Again, similar sort of story with the vibe side. If I click it over to the vibrato, I love this. Again, it's delicate, it's subtle, but when you sort of hear that pulsing, there's nothing quite like it for me. I love pitch vibrato, and this is just probably the most unique sounding pitch vibrato I've heard. Great stuff. So out of the Pulse Doppler, we're actually going into the tuner. The TU3W. Not a typical place to have a tuner in your signal chain, but this is just how it's worked out on this board, and it's fine. Then next we're going out of the TU3 into the DMTW. Probably one of my all-time favourite delay pedals. At the moment I'm just using this as like a slapback that I will accidentally leave on all the time because it just sounds so good, and when I turn it off I feel like I'm missing something. This is how I have it set up most of the time. Yeah, really simple. I have that on a lot, as I said. Next, we're going into the Tri-Parallel Mixer, which has become a staple and kind of essential with how I mix my ambient effects together. Essentially, it's 3 parallel signal paths that I have a reverb, a delay, and then something weird that I can just mix together in parallel. These 3 pedals are essentially in the Tri-Parallel Mixer. We'll go right to left, just for the sake of pedalboardness. So in loop, this one, in the red loop we'll call it because it's got the red button, we have the Empress Echosystem, a pedal that I had sold probably close to 2 years ago now, and then sort of missed it ever since I got rid of it. We've got another one here on the board. I'm really happy with it. I have this set up basically to do any other type of delay I want. A tape delay, a more rhythmical digital delay, anything that the DMTW can't do. So yeah, I've loved having that back. It's one of the best delays you can buy, I think. At the moment, I'm only just scratching the surface because I'm sort of relearning the pedal. But anyway, in the blue loop, the second one, the middle one, we have the Mood. Found its way back on the board after a brief hiatus. The Mood is just great for getting instant ambience and instant weirdness. And it's also great sounding reverb on its own as well. Love the Mood. I sort of, because I've had it for so long and I've had it on a few different boards now, I know where I like it. I know how to create at least close to what I want. You know, it's the sort of pedal that you strap on it and it's not going to be the same every time. It's part of the reason why I love it, but I also know how to get close to where I want it. And then finally, in the black loop, this third and final loop, I have the Darkness from Dreadbox. I just have this as a really big, crazy ambient reverb, basically. I like to set this 100% wet, just so it's a little cleaner when I start to mix other parallel loops with it. But it's also nice just to have a 100% wet pedal on the board, I find. So there you go, that's pretty much my ambient section, all controlled through the Tri-Parallel Mixer. It's a secret weapon of the board. Finally, we have the Flint, which you've been hearing the reverb at least for the whole video. I also have a harmonic trem set up if I ever want that sound, which is nice to have. Ever since I got that Euna, I just find myself playing with the clean sound more and more and more. It just sounds great with the fingers. You're hearing, as weird as it sounds, you're hearing the flesh against your string, but with a pick as well, the brightness comes back. Sorry, Euna, shut up about the Euna. So yeah, I have the harmonic tremolo set up. I also, if I have this, turn that favourite switch off, I have a bigger spring and a sort of fast, choppier tube trem. As I said, this is my favourite that this board's ever been. It feels the most me, it feels the most complete. And, you know, as I said, I've focused on the sounds that I want to achieve instead of ticking off boxes that I think I should achieve, if that makes sense. You know, I'm focusing on sounds that I like the Reeves Electro. That sounds like me, like the GFI System's Rossie. You don't really see a lot of envelope filters on boards, but I found that to be a really important tone for me. So I'm really happy with this. The newest addition to the board has just changed things completely, that being the Euna. It's like I've taken a wet blanket off my whole tone. It just sounds great. Thanks guys for checking out the video. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and maybe check out some more. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys.